Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
Welcome into another edition of Sports Junkies. I'm Steve Sparky Fifer from Sports Radio 1250 WSSP, host of the Wendy's Big Show weekday afternoons from 2 until 6. He, of course, Gery Woelfel of the Racine Journal-Times, top 5 insider from around the country when it comes to the NBA. Time now to do our first video talking about the NBA draft coming up on Thursday night, June 26th. And we'll be doing a draft show that night as well, Thursday night, June 26th. So from the first pick of the draft all the way to the last pick of the draft, tune into Sports Radio 1250 to hear that. Or you can check us out on your 1250 iPhone app or Droid app as well. Okay, Gary, let's talk about the point guards. Number one on the board is a guy I do not want the Bucks to take at number 2, a guy that did not talk to the media when he was in town for the Bucks. I believe that's the first time I've ever heard of a prospect coming in to work out leading up to a Bucks draft at the Cousins Center where he refused to talk to the media or wasn't allowed to talk to the media, however that whole thing played out. In my opinion, that's not a good sign because that probably means that somebody, whoever that may be, is afraid that you may say something wrong and cause yourself to slide. So therefore, they've put a muzzle on you, don't want you talking to the media.
Well, that someone is Rob Pelinka. That's his agent. And Pelinka's, been around the block, for quite a long time now. He's got some high-profile clients, including Kobe Bryant, so he knows what he's doing. But again, if you're a team and you're thinking about taking Dante Exum, and his agent doesn't have faith in him and what he says, how are you going to put this guy on the floor and say, hey, you're going to lead our franchise? It seems like he's got a lot of maturing to do. Very nice guy. I've talked to him down at the pre-draft camp. Talked to him on the phone Saturday. Very friendly, very polite. And we know he's got skills. But again, he's 18 years old, and it's going to take a while for the maturity aspect to kick in.
If you talk about Dante Exum and Giannis both on the court,
yeah,
that's great, but it's going to be 5 years before you see probably them get to where they're going to be potentially.
Well, they'd be the third best college team in Wisconsin.
Yeah, around that. I mean, really seriously, though, from that perspective.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying Exum can't be a very good basketball player. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is I know there's more of a sure thing sitting there at 2 in Parker or Wiggins than there is in Dante Exum, in my opinion, at this point.
Right. And the other thing is it's not clear-cut that he is the number one point guard. There's teams that still believe Marcus Smart is a better point guard, a more complete, and certainly much, much more ready to play.
Let's talk.
There's no question about it.
Let's talk about Marcus Smart. 6'3", out of Oklahoma State, had his temper tantrums last year, had a guy yelling racial epithets at him apparently as well while on the floor. A very rocky year for Marcus Smart. He could have came out after this previous season, I think would have been a high draft pick as well. But he waits. Now he comes out this year. To me, he looks like Brandon Knight. That's who he reminds me of, this Brandon Knight.
That's a good analogy.
A guy that's kind of a tweener between the two positions, really not a true point guard, not a guy that really makes his teammates better necessarily like you want a true point guard to be, but a guy that has the ability to score. A guy coming out of college that doesn't have the greatest shot in the world, but he's been working on it. He improved his three-point shooting last year from the previous year. But to me, I'm not taking Brandon Knight again at 5 or 6 because I need somebody better than that.
Well, I tend to agree with you.
And the Bucks are at 2. I'm just saying Marcus Smart is projected in that area.
I mean, the one thing that he brings to the table is that he's a physical point guard.
Very physical.
You look at, and there goes my cell phone.
Didn't our producer say make sure all phones are off?
Absolutely. $20 fine.
I'm just making sure.
But Smart is a physically gifted athlete. I mean, he kind of reminds me, in a lot of respects, of Dwayne Wade. Wade's maybe probably even another inch taller than him.
And a lot better.
Or Deion Waiters or something like that.
Yeah, Waiters is pretty good.
I mean, this kid could be a star player. He needs to develop his shot. If you remember when Dwayne Wade came out of Marquette, everybody said he can't shoot. When Michael Jordan came out of college, everybody said he can't shoot. For several years, when Jordan played in the Bucks, they would pack the lane and dare Jordan to shoot the perimeter shot because he knew he was ready. Well, 4 or 5 years later, he developed a perimeter shot, and he was virtually. If Marcus Smart develops a shot like these guys did, he could be a star.
So that's his thoughts on Marcus Smart. Number 3 on the list is Tyler Ennis, the 6'2 point guard from Syracuse. He's more of a traditional point guard than the first two we talked about in Exum. There's a debate point guard, shooting guard with Exum at 6'6", then there's Smart at 6'3", what he is. But Ennis is really more of that traditional point guard that's going to come in, lead a basketball team, a little bit of offense, not superstar-like offense, but can control the tempo of a game, and did a great job as a freshman in Syracuse.
Yeah, think in terms of Jaron Collison or someone like that. Somebody that can run the offense. I mean, he's very mature. I think he's only 18 or 19 years old, and he doesn't make mistakes. But again, he's not going to be your high-profile scorer. I mean, if you want a guy to come in strictly be a point and run the show, he's probably as good of a point guard as there is in the draft. But again, in the NBA, you got to score.
That's kind of the guy that the Miami Heat need. Yeah.
Yeah.
After they lose the NBA Finals. I mean, that's really it, because Chalmers isn't it, obviously. They went to Ray Allen and Dwayne Wade in that backcourt. But that was kind of really the point guard that they really needed. A smart, heady guy, wasn't going to make mistakes, and knew how to get guys in the best position to play.
Exactly.
All right, number 4 on the list is a guy I haven't seen a lot of, I'll be honest with you. Alfred Payne, 6'4", Alfred Payne out of Louisiana Lafayette. Thoughts?
Yeah, you are going to know quite a bit about him within 2 years. Trust me on this. He is going to be Damian Lillard, Paul George, any of those guys that you want to talk about, coming from small schools, basically coming from obscurity. I mean, 3 months ago, he was considered like a early second round, late first round pick. I had somebody tell me the other day that 4 lottery teams are seriously looking at him. He is. I mean, if you want to talk about sleeper, he's not really a sleeper to the NBA people, but he can play. He reminds me of somewhat of Walt Frazier. Remember Walt Frazier?
Goodness gracious.
Now, and I'm not saying he's Walt Frazier because he's not. I mean, who is, right? But he has that same demeanor on the floor, like he's not really playing hard. He plays kind of like in a nonchalant manner, and all of a sudden he strikes. I had a chance.
What's his offensive game like?
He's skilled. He all around. He's got a really good all around game. And the thing that impressed me when I talked to him down at the pre-draft camp was that his understanding of the game and how he tries to get other people involved. I mean, he can score. There isn't any doubt this kid can score, but he also has a good feel. So it would not shock me if he's drafted anywhere from 12 to 18, somewhere in there.
Well, we'll find out more about him, obviously, as we go. A guy that made a name for himself, obviously, in the NCAA tournament, if you didn't know who he was before. And really put on a show, Shabazz Napier, obviously, from UConn. Had a great conference tournament. And then went on to play fairly decent in the NCAA tournament too. I know a lot of Bucks fans were enamored by him and hoping the Bucks could get him. And maybe they could, but it would have to be at the end of the first round. They'd have to trade back in.
Yeah, I mean, the question mark on him is his size. He's not
6'5".
Huh?
6'5".
That's what they list him at?
That's what I got off of the website.
Yeah, no.
Unless I was looking at the wrong numbers, I just wrote it down.
That's not right.
It's more like 6'1".
In that ballpark,
right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, again, he came on strong at the end of the year, and I talked to a friend of Kevin Ollie, the UConn coach, former Milwaukee Bucks player.
Mr. Ollie,
Yep, and he said to his friend that he is absolutely convinced this kid's going to be a really good pro. I mean, he doesn't have any doubts about it. And he obviously, Kevin played in the NBA for a long time. He has a good feel for the NBA. And he was sold on. He thinks he's going to be in this league a long time.
Of the 5 guys we just talked about, which one has the most potential to be a star in 5 years?
Oh, Exum.
Still Exum.
Yeah, I mean, he could, on the high end, be another Penny Hardaway. He's got the size, 6'6", athleticism. I mean, he's got the potential to be a big-time player.
Still don't want the Bucks to draft him. He is Gery Woelfel of the Racine Journal-Times. I'm Steve Sparky Fifer. That'll do it for Point Guards. Keep it tuned in here to RacineSportsZone.com. We'll be previewing each position leading up to the NBA draft on June 26th. And then don't forget, we got our draft show on Sports Radio 1250 WSSP on the 26th. Going from the very first pick of the draft, we'll take you all the way through to the very last pick of the draft. So make sure to mark that on your calendars as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Sports